Greetings and welcome to our first lesson in Unit 10 for our 8 generals and Unit 16 for our 7 accelerated. Today we're concentrating on lesson 10.2 for the 8 general and 16.2 for the 7 accelerated. You're probably saying to yourself, wait a minute, what happened to 10.1 and 16.1? Well, it's a lesson that I think we can include into this one and only need to include a very brief part of it because I think you have a good idea of exponents considering all we've done with them this year. We're just going to do a tiny little bit and then we're going to move on to what we need to. Today, our unit, exponents and scientific notation. And we're going to concentrate today on using the product of powers, the power of a power, and the power of a product properties to simplify expressions. Our essential question: how can you use inductive reasoning to observe patterns and write general rules involving properties of exponents? So you'll have noticed that the first thing I asked you to do was go to actually lesson 10.1 and take some very quick notes as a refresher on exponents. So let's talk about that real quickly, because there's a lot of confusion about the name of what things are. So we're going to start off with this right here. You see an x and it's squared. Well, what do we call these parts? Because these are called parts. Well, the x is called the base. It's the base. It's the number or the variable that is multiplied by itself the number of times given by the exponent. And that is the 2. So in this particular case, where we have a base of x and an exponent of 2, if I were to ask you to write this as a product, we would have x times x. We would take that base x and multiply it by itself twice. So x times x. This entire thing is what we call the power. So this x squared is the power. All right. Now, a real quick refresher. What if I put a number in front of it? Oh, wait a minute. There already is a number in front of it. What is the number when you can't see it? That's right, it's a 1. But I'm going to put a number in front of it. I'm going to put the number 5 in front of it. And is that 5 a part of the power? Do I need to extend and say that the power is 5x squared? Well, the quick answer to that is no. The 5 is not part of the power, okay? I can make it a part if I do something special with it, and I'll show you what that is in a moment. But who remembers what that 5 is called, or a 1 if we don't see it? That's right, it's the coefficient. Okay, so if I wanted to make the 5 a part of the power, I could do one thing. I would have to include it in the exponent. And the only way to include it and make it part of the base would be to actually put it in parentheses and write it like this. Now this whole thing becomes the power. What would the base be? That's right. The base would be 5x. The exponent would still be 2, and you would now have a power. Now, if you saw this, 5x squared inside parentheses, is the 5 part of the power? I hope you said no, because it is not included with the exponent. You can only include it in the exponent as you write it this way. And in writing it this way up here, this is part of one of the properties that we are going to discuss today. Okay, so real quickly, again with exponents, writing and evaluating exponents, we're not going to spend a whole lot of time. We're going to write the product using exponents. And so here we have 4 times 4 times 4 times 4 times 4 times 4 times 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 4s. So 4 would be the base. It's the number that's multiplied by itself. How many times is it multiplied by itself? That's right, 7. So writing it as exponents would look like that. And on the bottom, here we have a negative 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. So we have a negative 2 as a base, and it's multiplied by itself 5 times. And then we have an x multiplied by itself 4 times. And so that's how we would write that as a product using exponents. Now, real quickly, we want to refresh the memory for those of you who may or may not remember, because we just talked about this briefly in our previous slide or two. And this is when the exponent includes the coefficient as the base. So in number 3, when I have negative 4 in parentheses squared, that negative is included in the parentheses. It is raised to the power of 2, just like the 4. So that negative 4 is the base. So this, in fact, would be -4 times a -4. And if we were to evaluate all the way through, that would be a +16. On this number 4, it's a little bit different. That negative is not included in parentheses. It's not included as part of the power. It's not a part of the base. So we would have what we would say the coefficient -1 times 4 times 4. Because 4 is the base multiplied by itself 2 times, this answer is -16. So you must recognize the difference between those two. All right? So that should be a good refresher on exponents. Ladies and gentlemen, you need to go to the top of page 718 for the accelerated, 418 for the general, and take some quick notes on the product of powers property, and then come right back. All righty, thanks for coming back. The product of powers property says, hey, if I multiply powers with the same base, we add the exponents. So now we understand what bases are, we understand what exponents are, and we understand that both of those together do provide us the power. So numerically, what they're saying here is 4 squared times 4 cubed is actually 4 to the exponent 2 plus 3, which would be 4 to the 5th. Now let's prove why that is. If I were to write this 4 squared as a product, it would be 4 times 4. And then I could multiply that by the product of 4 to the cube, which would be 4 times 4 times 4. And then what do we have? We have 5 4s there, and so hence we can understand there's 2 here, there's 3 there, add those together, we get 4 to the 5th. That's how it works. Algebraically, a to the m times a to the n, we have the common base of a, we just add the exponents m plus n algebraically. So let's do a couple examples of those. In number 5, multiplying powers with the same base. Now this does not say evaluate, so we're going to write our answers as exponents. It does not say evaluate, so we are going to write our answers as exponents. So we have 6 squared times 6 to the 7th. The common base is 6. The exponents are 2 and 7, so we add those together, and we have 6 to the 9th as our product of those two powers. In number 6, -2 to the 3rd times -2 to the 5th, so our base would be -2. And then we would have 3 plus 5, adding the exponents when you're multiplying a common base, so we would have -2 to the 8th. Pretty straightforward. Multiplying common bases, we add the exponents. All right? Our first quick write. Simplify the expression. M to the 5th times m to the 7th. Take a few moments, get that done. Have a quick break. Come back and join us for video number 2.